Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Diaz. Me and Will are back today for another big and spectacular podcast on Hawkeye, the series finale, and of course, a spoiler cast on Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh my God, I forgot about the name. Anyway, so Will, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's almost Christmas. It's almost
Yeah.
Christmas.
A few more
So,
days.
yes, a few more days. And I got a chance to see the series finale today, and I would say it's one of my favorite series finale of the show. I don't know about you, but I think it was overall satisfying for me this whole series.
Yeah, me too. I did have one like problem with it that we can talk about, but
Mm,
overall, yeah, I loved it. And I thought it wrapped everything up really nicely.
yeah. I can like I don't know about you, but for me, I think this is my favorite out of the Disney Plus shows.
Okay.
As my favorite because I don't know, like I I like it for its grounded uh, superhero kind of feel, kind of like Batman and Daredevil, and all those other characters.
Hmm.
And I like more character driven kind of shows, and this show has that, which I like. Um, and it did something that I never expect is to like Hawkeye, which I think this show made me really like the character more.
Hmm.
And it's something that I was very happy about with Marvel Studios. Like the best comic book movies for me or like shows is adapting source material, and this show did that very well, but also taking it into its own way, and
Hmm.
I think this whole series did that very well, and I think it's my favorite out of the Disney Plus shows we have been discussing for over a year.
Hmm.
So, okay,
Yeah.
let's. You have something to say about that?
Yeah. I liked it a lot, but I don't know if it was better than Loki or WandaVision for me.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's tough for me. I like, it's tough. Well, I guess like if I had to rank it, like I think I will put WandaVision at second, and then third is Loki, and then like fourth is the Winter Soldier, and then last is What If.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's how I'll probably go for my ranking for the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I guess to like start way away for this episode, of course, we got Kingpin finally in this show.
Hmm.
Uh, I was not expecting him to be like in this whole episode, and I was so happy to see his cane from the comics,
Hmm.
because obviously the Netflix show he didn't have that over there for 3 seasons, so
Hmm.
it was very cool to like start that as like your like proper introduction of, or like reintroducing this character in the MCU
Hmm.
proper. So that was very cool. And overall, I really like Vincent in this episode. I think he just came out right out of the Netflix show. He felt like the character, just you know things, minor that we didn't like address, like what happened in season 3, or like oral, like is he the same Kingpin? I was just happy to see him in this episode. I thought
Hmm.
he really brought that energy in this episode for me as the main bad guy.
Yeah. I don't know, I had like all of the problems that I had with the episode were like around his inclusion.
Okay. Um,
But
yes.
yeah, I mean, like I'm a huge fan of D'Onofrio as Kingpin. I think um, him in Daredevil is one of the best villains that Marvel's had. I think it's him, Kilgrave, and Loki are the best villains.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
I don't know. He felt like in this episode, I feel like they didn't make him feel as intimidating as he did in Daredevil.
mm,
And I think I would have liked to see more of him. as just like a presence in Maya's life.
Yeah.
Um, and then I don't know, there was like
I well,
sorry.
it's no, 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 no. I understand where you're coming from. I let me answer the threatening part. Okay, first off, we're in the MCU and Disney Plus kind of era. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how far they can go with the violence.
Well,
So,
he doesn't need to be violent to be frightening. He could just like be very like menacing and just imposing.
I know.
Which like I it's not that he wasn't that in this episode. It's just like I've seen what he could be.
Mm,
Um, and I think it could have been better, and it would have been better if they'd like built him up over more episodes.
yeah. Um, yeah. We'll get into like my overall opinion of the series. Despite me liking it, I think it has the problem of like they were trying to do this big reveal villain, and I when they lean into Kingpin, like everyone guessed that, and I I feel like and it was tough because well, and I will say secondly, I think we'll see more of him later down the road, especially with Echo.
I
The
hope so. That was another thing I
yeah,
had a problem with was the ending, but we'll talk about that.
yes, because that is a like a if you didn't know the relationship of Echo and Kingpin, like that's like a direct um scene and reference of the same thing that she did in the comics of shooting
Mm-hmm.
uh Kingpin, and like he got blinded in the comic books, and so the fact that I didn't like know that, and then I find out from the Easter eggs and stuff like that. I was researching. I was like, okay, so he could be survive, and especially because we didn't see him like, I mean, we didn't see him like we don't see him like get shot, like we did it off screen.
Mm-hmm.
So like it tells you right away, okay, if you're doing that like off screen, then he's not dead because like we have to see physically a body, you
Right.
know. It's like like a lot of people were talking about how Two-Face from The Dark Knight like supposedly survived from that fall, and like it was clearly he died,
Mm-hmm.
and like where here it's like different because we didn't see it. So I feel like we're saving him, for more future appearance in the MCU, and especially with Echo, because she's getting her show, and you know what's like the obvious sequel that will
Mm-hmm.
tie a lot of the loose ends we have for this show is Echo, obviously. Um, which I don't know it will like I say pay off the loose ends like like the watch and well I mean whatever, and then Elena, like all that like but for me the clear payoff will be Kingpin, like if he did or not, so
Yeah.
I um yeah, just fear and cross. And especially I mean with Spider-Man No Way Home, Daredevil is back, so like
Mm-hmm.
you cannot kill Kingpin, who is your arch enemy for your Daredevil.
Right.
So you can like, so I have faith that he survived, and it's this classic, a villain got out of a shot. I mean, I seen those in villains before when they supposedly got you know,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
shot from a bullet.
I yeah. It was very much like it could be he could be brought back.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if they don't, then that's
You're done with the
not a
show.
good way.
Yeah.
Well, it's the finale. I am done with the show, but um, like I don't know. Just if he is dead canonically, then it felt very unearned because
Yeah.
they didn't develop that Maya relationship, and it felt like extra unearned because we've seen 3 seasons of his rivalry with Matt Murdock, and like if anyone's gonna stop him, it's got to
Is
be Matt, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I I hope if Echo can do like a Batman Begins kind of thing where we have flashbacks of her life, like entirely, and then explaining also the 5-year gap between Infinity War and Endgame, because Daredevil last season was the same year with Infinity War, and if we explain that Daredevil was also snapped from from the Infinity Stones, then it kind of explains how Kingpin has been still doing this business, because he was arrested at the end of season 3, and so like I need those kind of answers, and hopefully Echo the show will do that. But I mean,
was he arrested at the end of season 3?
He was arrested by the FBI, and
okay, I thought
it's been a while for me to watch the show. I need to.
Oh yeah, no, he was arrested. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, like he's arrested twice in the show. Like he was arrested.
Right, I remember him being in jail.
Yeah, that's in
season 1.
Yeah,
season 2, he's in jail.
Yeah.
I just the part of season 3 that I remembered was Matt threatening to like reveal that Vanessa had killed or had been involved in the murder of that FBI agent.
Yes.
And I couldn't remember if the threat was like Kingpin would have to go to jail, or just that like if Kingpin did anything, then Vanessa would go to jail. But it was both.
It was both. I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like we also had to tie to the loose ends of Daredevil as well. I don't know. Like
well, I think Daredevil ended like in a good place, and I don't think they need to really tie up the loose ends. But it would be good to hear like what the characters that they're bringing back were up to. But yeah, I think it would make sense for Matt to have been snapped, and then Kingpin to rebuild his empire after that.
And especially like especially where it's like Vanessa. Like I'm kind of surprised we didn't reference that character in this episode. Like maybe she died or got killed by Kingpin. I don't know, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. When we get to like I guess Spider-Man No Way Home, like I guess the big question is he the same Kingpin? That's like
we don't know. I think if they're doing like a soft reboot, then I think we can treat him as the same Kingpin without like expecting references to plot points from Daredevil.
Okay.
Like he could also be a new Kingpin.
It's
like Schrodinger's continuity.
That's true. Or like it's kind of like they're doing like the Incredible Hulk kind of situation, right? Like we're like we're rebooting these characters, but they're like the same from what we saw previously, like kind of like Ross.
You can skip over the origin story.
Okay, that I can see that happening, I guess. Because I want to talk to you. Well, when we get to Spider-Man No Way Home, there was the thing that caught me was Matt and like his hair, and I was like, wait, is he? Like I'll talk to you about that because
sure.
Because I was when we were scheduling for the podcast this week, because I was going to see it again tomorrow, and because there was a moment when I saw him again, Daredevil, it was like, oh man, his hair, it looks like the comics, and or I'm just maybe forgetting that he still has his hair from like from the show. But,
it looked the same to me, but
okay, because I thought he almost looked like he had red hair for some reason.
He might. I think if like the sun's hitting it the right way,
Oh well.
Got red highlights.
Oh, that's true. I mean, then we're really going to like we're really going to reboot these characters, and in this universe. That's my
Yeah,
thought.
if they changed his hair.
Yeah, like this, like, oh, we want to make him be more like the comic book character from the comic books, right? In such a weird way. I mean, I don't know. Okay. I'm looking at this like blurry image. Yeah, he looks the same. I mean, his glasses. His glasses he's wearing is like very red, and
Yeah, I mean they
I
were like that in the show too.
yes, yeah. But it's a little more brighter than in the show. Like, because in the show is red, but like it's like dark red. You know?
Well, I think that just has to do with again the lighting. Like the scene that
Oh,
he's in No Way Home is like a well lit apartment in the daytime, and then Daredevil was
it's like
mostly like nighttime.
yeah, and cloudy skies in New York.
Yeah, everything was dark in that show.
Exactly. Nope, no, you're right. No, you're right. Well, anyway. Um, yeah. So I guess to like wrap up the Kingpin stuff. Like, at least we have a show that will probably bring him back and like confirm a lot of things. What's really going on with this character, and like, and we can like develop more into his relationship with Echo May.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's maybe the direction we'll probably go into in her show in next year, whatever is going to be released. That's haven't been confirmed yet.
Right.
So yeah. So I guess going to the next character, Maya, Echo. I really still like this character. I like her journey in this episode, and I was kind of shocked she um or Case uh killed himself during the fight.
Yeah.
Kaisi, thank you. I really adore all that, but then again, it's kind of like the weakest part of this episode. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, because we got so much going on in this finale where like we're dealing with the Leia stuff, we're dealing with the mom. The Jack thing was just like a red herring, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then what's the fourth one? The and of course the mom being the villain somewhat, but that didn't came true either.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
but
no, she was
yeah,
a
she
villain.
yeah, a villain. Um, I don't know. Some reason, her, like, well, I guess it was like it wasn't disappointing. Like, it was disappointing because it was kind of like obvious. Like,
Yeah, it was
why would?
exactly what you expected, and they played
Yeah,
it off as a twist.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
they did that route, and I was like, why? Like, I knew she killed the old guy in his house. I'm like,
right. Like, yeah, no,
yeah,
it's I could have guessed the plot points beat by beat,
yeah,
but like they still, I don't know, it was fine. It wasn't like the show wasn't groundbreaking, but it was fun, which
yeah,
is all I wanted from it.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna
Yeah, I'm not
hold the
gonna.
fact that it was predictable against it.
Yeah. Nope. And I don't think it's their fault. It's kind of like it was the fault of the other Disney Plus shows because they've been doing that. Like WandaVision was that. Was Falcon and Winter Soldier that? Yes, because the pirate broker, and then Loki did that again.
Hmm.
And then when you get to this, it was like, really, we're doing that yet again.
I mean,
But
it's just a common
yeah, it's common
trope
problem.
anyway.
Yeah. But it'll be a very fun conversation when we do the like our over reviews of the Disney Plus shows
Hmm.
because it was, I mean, we had so many theories over this whole year with each show, and it was like crazy. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, some crazy, but some was kind of like tempered. Um, but yeah, um, but yeah, I think Echo was very good in this episode, and I think this episode made me like her, and I think I'm confident where we're going with her in the show.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, let's see where that goes. And I guess getting into like the overall main like crush of the show is, of course, I think Kate had more to do in the show. I really like Haley Steinfeld's performance in this episode. I think she was really great.
Mhm.
And despite the reveal and whatever the mom theories or whatever, I think it really paid off in this episode with Bishop realizing that and like just not giving up hope and trying to be a hero. At the end of the day, it was so good. And I really like how Hawkeye accepted her as a partner when
Mhm.
she say, "I'm not gonna leave you. You're my partner." Like that hit me so hard, and
Mhm.
oh my god, that was so wonderful, and it was great to see, him saying, "All right, let's create the trick arrows." Um, by the way, I love the trick arrows in the episode. One of the
Yeah.
best moments. Oh my god. Oh my god. I never expect that, and especially in the Rockefeller Center, I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god." One of the best action scenes I've seen this whole
Yeah, that,
year.
that was fun.
Oh my god. And Hawkeye was great, and I really liked this. I think Hawkeye was fun. I think Jay Runner did his best performance in the ice ring when he was talking to Elena. I really like that, like him, like explaining what happened to Natasha, but like telling Elena, like Natasha talked so much about her during that 5 year gap, or the years
Mhm.
since they departed, and um, was so touchy. And by the way, I think the reason I like this episode was the way we addressed Natasha and Elena.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was my favorite thing about this. This is why I put this as number one, because of those elements. Because I. I love Black Widow so much, and as we discussed, you discussed last week, you know, it if like the handle of Black Widow's death was awful in Endgame. Um, uh, that's
Mhm.
what I'm saying. And then Black Widow, of course, it couldn't did that because it was a prequel,
Right.
obviously. And when we got to, because we knew she was coming in the show, but I didn't expect all of that to be this important in the show
Mhm.
to Hawkeye, and I was so pleased and I was so happy. And oh my god, and Florence Pugh did an outstanding job in these. Oh my god, what last 2 episodes or 3 episodes, right? And
Yeah, she was barely in the fourth episode, but
yeah,
yeah.
like 2 episodes, right? And I felt like, oh my god, just wonderful. And
Mhm.
I'm just hoping we get like another like Disney Plus show surrounding about her, you know.
Yeah.
So what do
Yeah.
you think, Will? I say a lot.
Yeah,
um,
no, I agree that like the trick arrows were fun and that Jeremy Renner's performance was good, and that Florence Pugh continues to be just a highlight of every project that she's in.
yes.
Um, yeah, okay. So do you think this was like the series finale, or do you think we're getting a second season of Hawkeye?
I
Because they
you,
kept, sorry,
no, I'm sorry. You go ahead, because
yeah,
I
they kept promoting it on social media as the season finale instead of the series finale.
hmm,
So I'm wondering if they're going to have another season that's just like more centered on Kate instead of Clint.
it's I think what you say makes sense,
Hmm.
and I think this series was I think a great closure for Hawkeye, Clint's role in the MCU,
Hmm.
and that I think this is actually the best passing the baton to a character.
Hmm.
Um, like we didn't make a big deal out of it. Like, okay, Kate is now like is accepted in Hawkeye's eyes as a partner, you
Hmm.
know, and I think after that scene of burning the rodent suit, it was like a sign of, okay, he's done with this whole thing, and like it's kind of like the Iron Man train. He's letting go, or like done with this aspect he's been. having difficult with over the years, like
Mm-hmm.
how in Iron Man 3, Tony was dealing with the PSD of the Avengers, in 2012. And then here, he was grappling the events of Endgame and then his stint in as Ronan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a closure of Clint and it's like he's now done with his life as a superhero. But at the same time,
mm-hmm.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Yeah, and then with Kate, he sees this young person who, like he talked about this whole series, like he looked up to her, look up to him
Mm-hmm.
as a hero, and he never, accepted it at first because as he said before, he's not a role model, he's an assassin, he's a spy, but he slowly accepts Kate because she's a very good person who is very smart, is head smart. She's very skilled as an archer. He can see that, and
Mm-hmm.
and she is trying to be a good person and wants to be a hero. And I think that's where we're going to take her in her next, possibly the Hawkeye's, solo show for her,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know. If we're not going to get that, then it has to be on Avengers, right?
Yeah,
Because
they're definitely building toward that.
you know, So no, I agree with you, Will. To kind of end this, like I think this is the last time we're going to see Jeremy Renner as Clint, and we're going to get another, like it's kind of like the Falcon and Winter Soldier situation where now, you know, how you say it, like Wilson or Sam became
Yeah,
Captain
Sam
America.
Wilson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like became Captain America. This was like a origin story for Kate, and we'll probably see her again in her own solo show, and like go from there. So I
Yeah.
think that's where it's gonna happen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I, yeah, and then to answer your second thing, I'm kind of curious why they didn't do it. Like because we do have to address certain things that, I I because we did that with Loki and we were fine with that. Like they like nonchalantly say, "Hey, look, guys, season 2 of Loki is coming,"
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
I don't know, like it's weird.
Maybe they because they had greenlit season 2 of Loki before it even aired, and maybe they were waiting to see how Hawkeye performed before
Mm,
greenlighting a second season.
yeah.
But
Um,
um,
I
yeah, I
it's
I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Jeremy Renner as Clint. I just think he's going to take a step back after this. Like he'll show up for like small parts.
smart parts. Okay. Um, yeah. I think I agree with you. Um, I mean, he could show up in Echo. I mean, we're not,
Yeah, he could be an Echo. He could
yeah,
be in something that Kate's in, just as like a mentor figure.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of questions because I think out of the shows, I feel like this show didn't feel like a mini series. Like it felt like like it felt like a first chapter, and
Yeah.
and then it it's almost like the people are not, they're not nonchalantly like are not like analogy the fact that it should be maybe chapter 2, 3 for this show. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I agree with that. And then if they're not gonna do a sequel for Hawkeye, like a season 2, like obviously the next step for Kate and Elena is either the Young Avengers, um,
Mhm.
for mostly Kate, because Elena, I think a lot of us are like kind of like theorizing she could be in Thunderbolts, which honestly that's been also the most talk in so far this year about that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so yeah, a lot of up in the air with these characters right now. It's kind of difficult. Okay, let's kind of get into this conversation. What was your favorite moment from this episode? I'm curious.
Mhm. Um, oh man, anything with Yelena. I just really like her.
Oh my god.
Um, I like the scene in the elevator where
Oh my god.
she and Kate were like going down to the floor that Hawkeye was on, and she was
Yes.
like trying to stop Kate from hitting all the buttons. That was great.
Yes. Oh my god. Okay, you took my favorite moment of that. But you didn't mention the moment when she how you say Kate hit Elena. That was my favorite moment. I laughed
Oh,
out loud for that because I was like,
when she slapped her.
yeah, and then I think Elena's response,
Reaction.
yeah, it was like, "Whoa, really?" Oh my god, I
Kate like
was
instantly apologizes. Like
yes. Oh my god. Oh my god. No, no, that whole like oh my god. I love both of those characters and there's I was so happy this show got them to interact with each other. It is one of the
mhm.
best moments of the MCU. Okay, my favorite moment was paying off the tracksuit guy who was he was a big fan of the Imagine Dragons and
Mhm.
he was when he met up Kate again, and she was talking to her and say, "Oh, thank you, I did it. I actually bought the tickets," and that was my favorite moment of him like talking to Kate, say, "Hey, I actually took your advice and I actually did it, and it worked." And then, of course, Kate, her response is like, Why are you telling me this? Why I'm beating you up? Oh my god, that was my favorite moment of that whole show. I was so happy they pay off that like
Mhm.
running gag from episode 3. Oh my god. Oh god. That was so funny. Great funny moments in this episode. One of the best. Uh yeah. And then what was your worst moment? I'm kind of curious. What was like just kind of like a weak moment you have with this episode?
A weak moment.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. There, when Kate is fighting Kingpin, there's
Okay.
like right at the beginning of that fight, uh, Kate's mom is in the car with someone who's dead in the driver's seat.
Right.
Um, and somehow she gets that guy out of the driver's seat, turns the
Mm,
car on, turns it around, and then drives it into Kingpin with enough force to knock him into the storefront and 30
yeah.
Rock. And like
Yeah.
I've been on that street. There's not enough room for a car to make that turn and then get that much speed. And then like how did Kate and Kingpin not react to the car coming at them?
I
That was
oh
just
my
ridiculous. And then Kingpin like bounced off the car like a cartoon character. There was a lot of stuff with like the physics of Kingpin that
this didn't make sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Especially
yeah.
after like the brutal like realistic brawling in Daredevil. And then I like nothing felt grounded in reality when Kingpin was fighting in this show.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is very true. I didn't think about the 30 Rock. Yeah, yeah, it's very small there.
Yeah.
Um okay. I can't really defend that. I think you're right. I just think it's just an action scene and they weren't thinking the physics and the logic of that whole like street and it's like, well, can we
Yeah.
even do that action scene properly? Um, then the Kingpin, like, I I guess it was just a good setup way for him to survive from the bullet. Maybe I question mark like because we're gonna have that question like how did he survive from that bullet from Echo and I guess this scene was gonna show how powerful he is. Like he's really that indestructible. Like
Yeah.
not
Like
only he survived from that, he also survived from explosion arrows and like how did he
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
I
know
I did like him like getting shot in the chest with the arrow and then it like reveals that he's wearing the like
the vest.
yeah.
Yes,
I liked that.
yeah,
Like he was that was the scene where he was intimidating.
yeah.
where he's
And
like throwing Kate around and he's like breaking her arrows and stuff. Again,
yeah,
cartoon physics with her getting tossed around, but
yeah,
still he was very like imposing there.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's gonna be tough to just use this character. In the fact we see him in a much more violent show,
Hmm.
and it's like it's tough because you're in a limit. You're so limited in the MCU. Like how far you would go, in terms of the violence. I will say uh I mean I was kind of shocked how we saw the driver and the blood in his neck. I wasn't expecting that. So like how it looked, because I thought we're gonna just see him like he was dead, no with no blood and cuts in his neck. I was kind of surprised by that. But
Hmm.
okay. I think what's my worst moment? I guess the worst moment was. Ooh, which was the worst moment? I'm thinking because there's just a lot. I guess Jack is like my worst thing, and
Okay.
it's kind of weird because I I think totally Dalton was really great in the show, and I think this was like a misuse of Swordsman. I
Mm.
think you could have done something very like fascinating for this character and be connected to Hawkeye, or like either way you could have gone. Like he could have been a good villain. He could have been good like just like a mentor to Clint and like learn maybe some cool things about him, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I just felt like it was kind of lame that we just make him like a joke character and like he was just like a red herring for the villains. But then it's
Hmm.
like we knew who was going to be the main villains for this show, and so it's just like it didn't make sense why we need Jack in the show, but just to show off, like just to show
Yeah.
off his sword skill and like we're gonna use him in the future. Is like why we
Yeah.
need him?
I'm hoping he becomes like a type of mentor figure for Kate.
Yes, that's
But I mean, like Clint's gonna be doing that too. So he's still kind of redundant, but we'll
yeah.
see.
Um, well, I mean, someone. I mean, we know Kate is very good at other things besides the archery. Like she was good with the fencing in episode 2, right?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, yeah. But you're right. I mean, yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yeah. Uh, but what else? Um, I will say I was very happy to see Guilds and the was it the uh, uh Lepar
The
people,
LARPers.
the Lopers. Thank you. Being involved with the series finale. I think they were the best thing about the show, and I actually liked them in the series finale. That was another thing. I think that was my another favorite moment was seeing Kills carrying the kid, the
Hmm.
the the seven.
Yeah,
Like I'm trying to save your life.
I really liked the idea that the citizens of New York in the MCU are so accustomed to superheroes now that they respond better to people wearing goofy outfits telling them where to go than just strangers.
Yes, that's true. That was the funniest thing they did, and it makes totally sense. Oh my god, I love that scene when they came out from their like costumes. It was like,
Yeah,
oh my god, it's and then I think Hawkeye response was like, "Oh, we're all gonna die." That
yeah.
was, oh my god, it was so funny. Oh god, yeah, they were great, and I really like how they were used in this episode. And I was not expecting them to be part of the finale. I was like, oh wow, so they all there, and then they were cool and they were very professionals, so that was good. Um, and I guess we're in they were in the Comcast building, right? And it was cool they were in that building because I was like I've been to Rockefeller like I think 2 times or 3,
Hmm.
and it was very cool to just show. Like we saw a couple of scenes of that over there in the Rockefeller, but I was very cool to see like full on in this episode of the Rockefeller as like the main set for the series finale of the action scenes and stuff like that. Um, just because that section is like the most iconic like area of New York. Besides Times Square or like Central Park.
Mhm.
Um, it was one of my favorite action scenes of all time in the MCU after the bridge and What's a Soldier, maybe. So maybe. But I don't know. What do you think about the whole action scene of Rockefeller and all that?
Yeah, it's always fun when it's a location that like I've been to before.
Yeah.
Um, which is why I love when everything's set in New York. But
Yes.
yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I liked all the trick arrows and
Yeah.
um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Those. I. Oh my God. I don't know. Like, what was your favorite trick arrow? What they throw? My favorite was the pin. Uh, the
Yeah,
pin arrow. Oh my God.
I'm always a fan of Pym particles just because
Oh.
I love Ant-Man. Although that was very dark when they shrank and he didn't know what would happen to them or if they'd go back and then they got taken by the owl.
Arrow.
Ugh.
Well, it was a funny, dark scene, so I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. Oh my God, it was funny. And then just hearing the tracksuit mafia talking and those like squeaky voice, it's
Hmm.
just gets to me so much. Oh my God. And I think it was by the was the magnetic arrow. That was my favorite one.
That was a cool one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was disappointed we didn't use a boomerang arrow. Like like
Yeah, maybe if there's a season two, Kate will
oh
have him make a boomerang arrow.
yes, she has to do that. Oh my God. All right. And then so okay, let's kind of while that happened, of course, Kate was, dealing with Kingpin, and her mom. Let's get into more of like the Leia stuff because
Hmm.
that was my favorite part, and um, I really love how he brought back the whistle that she used for Black
Hmm.
Widow, and that was a cool way and a neat way to like show Leia that she talked about her this whole time, and
Hmm.
that kicked me when he did that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that
I
was good.
oh my God. Like that whole scene and the fight between her and Hawkeye, it was incredible. One of the best emotional like scenes I had in the MCU uh, ever. Uh,
Hmm.
and and I actually dug her suit she was wearing this time around.
Yeah, it was good. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I like her. Oh, and the neat thing, her her eye lines, right?
Hmm.
Because kind of like Winter Soldier with the black stuff.
Yeah.
Hers were, I think, purple, and it was kind of neat because it was referencing Val a little bit, who is her Highlander, and I don't know if that was like a little nod to that character we've seen twice now in this series
Yeah,
of
could have been.
MCU. So that was neat. Um, yeah, and how you say the kind of hallway like launch shots sequence we got for her and Kate was also wonderful. Um, yeah, so good, very good. I guess after all that, you know, how you say Hawkeye takes Kate to before that, we got Hawkeye his costume. That was
Yep.
the big thing. I let me mention that before we get into the final scenes. That was cool. I love the costume. It's from the manufacturer on like the
Hmm.
symbol is there in the chest. That was very cool. What do you think about the suit? It's overall good.
Yeah, I think it's clean. It's nice. Yeah, I'm glad he doesn't have the helmet or the
Uh,
mask.
yeah,
Uh,
which is good.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I like his joke about like nice fabric and all that when he
Hmm.
was talking to
Yeah.
Kate. That was my favorite one moment from this episode. So we got that. It was funny to see one of the police officers talking to Jack to join the the group.
Hmm.
That was funny too. Um, and it was very funny to hear Gil saying that we're all now the Avengers, like we work with Hawkeye, when they were like being questioned by the police authority, and that was very funny scene. And then now we get to the the scene where Hawkeye takes Kate to the family farm, the Bartons, and we get to pay off the watch. And I guess the watch is the wife's that he had, and that was her belonging, and it's a 19, so she's aging 19. So this confirms she's Mockingbird, and okay. So
Hmm.
we thought all of that. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think it might be. Well, I mean, we know that her name isn't Bobby Morse, so I think they've just split Mockingbird into two characters.
which is fine. I mean, comics do that as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Swordsman is literally two people as well,
Hmm.
and Black Widow as well, and now
Yeah. A
Hawkeye.
lot of characters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Ant-Man. You mentioned Ant-Man. He's
Yeah.
also
There's
two.
there's three Ant-Man.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Neat, neat payoff. And yeah, and then I like how we end the show with the final shot of the was it the arrow mark that we saw in Endgame.
Hmm.
So that was cool to end the show like that. Um, and I guess to like wrap things up with this show, overall thoughts, Will, of what uh, your thoughts on the show, and like, did it exceed your expectations? What was like your what was the best thing about the show, and then go through the worst thing about the show. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Um, I would say it exceeded my expectations. Yeah. I mean,
Mm,
they weren't very high to begin with, I should say. I was expecting it to just be a fun, like, action movie type thing. And it was that, but then there were also like highlights like Yelena having a pretty sizable role in the last two episodes. And uh yeah, I liked Kate Bishop a lot. Um so yeah, I think it was fun and there were like good character moments. I think my favorite scene is still that one where Clint's talking to his son on the phone, but his hearing
yes.
aid's broken.
Yeah, that was one of
Yeah.
my favorite things. Yeah. Episode 3 is great. I think it's definitely their best. It's one of the best episodes of this series.
Hmm.
And the Disney Plus shows so far. Um,
Yeah.
very good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So any else? Can I go and
Yeah, you can go.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think this is the most safe like
Hmm.
Disney Plus show we had so far, which is not a
Yeah.
bad thing. I think that's what we needed. Um, I think what saved it for me was just um I getting more like MCU connections, but in a organic way. Like I like how we address so much of Black Widow stuff
Hmm.
that I was expecting, and so like that was I think my favorite thing about this show, and my favorite moment. You mentioned how the you know um Clint talking to his kid without the hearing aid.
Hmm.
My favorite moment is seeing just poor Alina, learning his sister loved her, and like she talked about her
Hmm.
all these years. One of my favorite scenes, and just Florence Pugh just kills it with this role, and I'm so happy she came back
Yeah.
after Black Widow.
Yeah, I hope she's in a lot more things going forward.
Yes, exactly, and yeah, and I think after Loki, I think this was one of the best shows with the best villain, like uh reveals, and just working through the plot,
Hmm.
because like with Falcon and Winter Soldier, we've been kind of like non-stop talking about how the plot there wasn't really strong, and the villain motivation with the flag smashers and all that wasn't
Yeah.
like uh just like wasn't strong, and it was just like it was the worst aspect from that show.
Hmm.
And I like we haven't talked too much about Agnes. I think she's like my favorite villain so far, and she's getting her show after they announced that like last month
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
um I think she's probably the best villain performance, but her in the role of One Division was I think it should be more developed. That's, I think, my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've talked about this. I loved WandaVision. It's
Hmm.
my favorite of these shows, but the ending was not
Yeah,
that
that,
strong.
yeah, that's where it kind of stops for me with that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
But I'm happy she survived. That's like the big thing for me.
Yeah. I'm excited to see more of her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just like when we were seeding Kingpin, I was like, no way they're gonna do that. Bring him back. Like I wasn't expecting Loki to bring King into the show, and then it
Hmm.
did, and that was like a big deal for all of us, and it was a big deal. And then convening it was a big deal for Daredevil fans like you and me.
Hmm.
Seeing not only Kingpin back, but Daredevil as well. It was like, wow, this last week, this whole week has been a huge, like, Marvel just hitting us with this amazing moments and just
Hmm.
crazy. Um, but yeah, one of the things I liked about the show did was to really give proper spotlight on Clint Barton as Hawkeye properly and give him more depth and just arc to give this actor that I like, Jeremy Renner, who is a good actor,
Hmm.
who, he had his moments in the MCU. Like, I love his moment in Age of Ultron where he say, like, look, he was talking to Scarlet Witch in the finale, like, hey, I have a bow and arrow and I'm fighting giant robots. It doesn't make sense. It's one of my favorite moments. Like, it's oh my god, it's such a great line from Hawkeye. But people like he's kind of like the Cyclops of the MCU for some reason. and, and then in this show, it completely shows you that no, Clint is a serious superhero. He is the most skilled, the most professional hero we have in the series. Like, he knows what he's doing,
Hmm.
and I love that. And I love we did more with his family and like show he's a family man, and like it's I like all that stuff, and I think this helps me appreciate more like Age of Ultron, Civil War, and Endgame now. Like, I think the show made me appreciate more Endgame because I don't personally hate Endgame, but I don't think it's my favorite. And I think this show made me appreciate more Endgame because of I didn't like the way they handle Natasha and Black Widow
Right.
stuff and all that, but
Hmm.
we're not going to get into that. So I think this show deliver. Um, I think in a very good expectation that it was going to be a fun and action show, and I love how they use the holiday stuff. Like, it reminded me of like
Hmm.
Shane Black and Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. It's like
Yeah.
it was like the buddy cup show that Falcon Winter Soldier wasn't for some
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Oh, and last thing, the dog got Lucky, the name Lucky
Hmm.
from the
Yeah.
comics. That was good. Um, but yeah. So, just quick things before we get into Spider-Man No Way Home. There was a couple of references. His Sonic shirt the Kingpin was using, it was from the Mark Waid and James Robinson 2014's Amazing Spider-Man Family Business comic.
Okay.
So that was cool that they actually gave him a exotic shirt to wear for this whole episode. Um, I mentioned the cane, of course, that was a big deal.
Hmm.
Of course, that's the famous thing that Kingpin always has. I mean, you saw that in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie and the '90s show from Spider-Man. Then we got a poster from Dragons of Despair. That was like a DAD shout out. Of course, that was in Gail's apartment.
Hmm.
Of course, before when they were creating the arrows, we got the pin arrows match, the Ant-Man color code disc.
Hmm.
So very quick scene. Very cool. And then we got a couple of like Stark weapons that
Yep.
Clint had. That was very cool. And what else? And Kate and Clint's infiltration to the gal was from Manufacturon, so that was cool. So that was directly from the comics. And yeah, and I think that's it. I think I think that's all I check in terms of the references we have in this episode. Are you ready to get into No Way Home?
Yeah.
Okay, so hello.